Imagine waking up every day knowing the world could end before nightfall. For nearly half a century humanity lived under that shadow. Two superpowers, locked in a rivalry so fierce, it spanned every continent, every ocean, even outer space. This was the Cold War, a war fought with spies and missiles, with ideas and propaganda, with proxy wars and nuclear brinkmanship. And tonight I'll take you through the entire story. From Berlin to Vietnam, from Cuba to Afghanistan, from NATO to the fall of the Soviet Union. This is how the world danced on the edge of destruction, and how, somehow survived. By 1945 the Nazis are defeated. The guns of World War II fall silent. But in that silence, a new conflict is already being born. The United States and the Soviet Union, once uneasy allies, stand as the two superpowers. But their visions could not be more different. The US champions capitalism and democracy. Stalin's USSR stands for communism and control. Winston Churchill warns of an iron curtain dividing Europe. Stalin spreads his influence across the East. The US responds with the Truman Doctrine and aid to countries resisting communism, and the Marshall Plan, investing billions of dollars rebuilding Western Europe, not just with money but with loyalty. The West forms NATO, a military alliance promising that an attack on one is an attack on all. The East responds with the Warsaw Pact, a rival alliance binding Eastern Europe under Soviet command. The world has divided into two armed blocs. A line drawn across Europe. And the Cold War. It's official. In 1948, Stalin blockades West Berlin, cutting off food, fuel, medicine. He dares the West to surrender the city. But America and Britain refuse. For nearly a year, planes thunder overhead, delivering supplies in the Berlin airlift. 2 million people survive because the planes never stopped. Berlin remains divided, but alive. But the message is clear. Neither side will back down. And soon, the stakes get higher. In 1949, the Soviets detonate their first atomic bomb. The balance has changed forever. No longer does America hold the monopoly on nuclear fire. The arms race accelerates. Hydrogen bombs. Intercontinental missiles. Nuclear submarines. The logic becomes terrifying, mutually assured destruction. If one side launches, the other will retaliate, and both will be annihilated. The paradox is chilling. Survival depends on the certainty of destruction. The Cold War soon turns hot. In 1950, North Korea, backed by the Soviets and China, invades the South. The US and UN push back. 3 years, millions dead, a frozen stalemate on the 38th parallel, which is a political border after the establishment of North and South Korea in 1948. In Southeast Asia, Vietnam becomes America's nightmare. Guerrillas in the jungles, napalm in the skies. The Soviet Union and China supply the North. America pours in 500,000 troops to defend the South. Decades of blood. And in 1975, Saigon falls. Communism claims victory. The Cold War has left scars across Asia. But it wasn't just Asia. In Eastern Europe, resistance flickered. In 1956, Hungary rises against Soviet control, but crushed by tanks. Not all battles were fought with guns. The CIA and the KGB, the main intelligence for the United States and Soviet Union, waged silent wars in the shadows. Espionage, coups, assassinations. Iran, Chile, and Afghanistan. The chessboard spread worldwide. Meanwhile, the propaganda war raged in every newspaper, every radio broadcast. Capitalism versus communism wasn't just politics. It was jeans, Coca-Cola, jazz, versus red banners and workers' parades. And then, the race beyond Earth itself. In 1957, the Soviets launched Sputnik, a small, beeping metal sphere that orbited our planet for a few months before burning up in the atmosphere. In 1961, Yuri Gagarin becomes the first man in space, and by 1969, America plants a flag on the moon. Each victory wasn't just science, it was a declaration of global supremacy. But the closest the world came to ending was Cuba. In 1962, the Soviets secretly placed nuclear missiles on the island, just 90 miles from America. When U.S. spy planes discover them, President Kennedy draws the line: remove them or face war. For 13 days the world holds its breath. Soviet ships sail toward the blockade. Bombers stand ready. Fingers hover over launch keys. One mistake, one nervous commander, and it's the end of everything. At the last moment, a secret deal. The Soviets remove their missiles. America quietly withdraws its own from Turkey. The world survives, but the fear never fades. Shaken by the brink, leaders take steps to prevent Armageddon. A direct hotline is set up between Washington and Moscow, so that in a crisis, presidents can speak instantly. Treaties follow: the nuclear test ban, the SALT agreements, limits on weapons. For a time, tensions ease. This period is called détente. Nixon visits Moscow. Leaders shake hands. The world breathes easier. But peace is fragile. In 1968, Soviet tanks roll into Czechoslovakia to crush the Prague Spring, an attempt at freedom inside the Eastern Bloc. The message to Eastern Europe is brutal: once behind the Iron Curtain, there is no escape. And in 1979, Soviet tanks again roll forward, this time into Afghanistan. The Cold War heats back up. During the 1980s, a new American president, Ronald Reagan, calls the USSR the evil empire. He launches the Strategic Defense Initiative, a futuristic missile shield. He pushes the arms race harder than ever. The Soviets are breaking. Their economy is stagnant. Their empire costly to maintain. And then a new leader, Mikhail Gorbachev. He brings glasnost, openness, and perestroika reform. He tries to save the system by loosening it. But instead, he unleashes forces too powerful to stop. In 1989, Eastern Europe collapses like dominoes. Poland, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, and finally, East Germany. Crowds gather at the Berlin Wall. They hammer, they climb, they cheer. The wall crumbles before the cameras of the world. The symbol of division, gone. 2 years later, the Soviet Union itself dissolves. The red flag over the Kremlin lowers for the last time. The Cold War is over. For 46 years, the world lived in fear. It brought us to the edge of extinction, and yet drove us to the stars. In the end, the Cold War reminds us of something vital: that peace is fragile, that rivalries can last generations, but that even the most dangerous conflicts can end.